I just need a rock. Yukon hammer.
Look at that.
Woohoo! Let's go.
From the search of gold in a potentially viable land for gold mining in Alaska, to the extraction of a huge amount of gold that is guaranteed to enrich the team thanks to the work of some hard-working miners, here's how Parker Schnabel just discovered $400,000 worth of gold on Gold Rush. For several years now, we have accompanied the likes of Parker Schnabel, Todd Hoffman, and Tony Beets as they searched for their fortune out in Yukon territory. This thrilling adventure has brought a lot of joy to the viewers as they watch these people look through the soil for some gold. Well, guess what? Today isn't going to be any different. To be honest, it should come as no surprise that Parker is one of the few miners that came to prominence on the Gold Rush TV show. Barely even 30 before he joined the show, this young man had mining in his blood, and as such, his entry into the world of gold mining was perhaps more straightforward than others. However, nobody would have foreseen that he was going to become such a giant in the industry. That said, one cannot ignore the fact that he rose to such prominence thanks to the years that he spent by his grandfather's side. Luckily, his grandfather was the legendary John Schnabel, aka Big John. Thanks to his learned grandfather and his mining operations, which served as the perfect classroom for the young man, Parker was able to learn all the tricks of the game. This was a great advantage to place alongside the fact that he grew up in the small town of Haines, Alaska.
Stop a minute.
You don't give me orders. You ask, have some respect for me.
This also helped him get fully immersed in the mining culture of the land. Thanks to all these factors, Parker was fully equipped to chase the most valuable thing in Alaska: gold. That said, it wasn't always easy. Luckily, the young man also had some other things going for him: a work ethic that doesn't quit, and a hunger for getting as much out of life as you can.
What happened?
The bolts came out of the tray, and this plate, all the bolts are gone too.
Yeah, that's all up.
With his precocious aptitude for mining, a good understanding of the geological landscape, and the machinery that all miners need to extract gold from the mines, it seemed that Parker was ready to make his mark on the gold mining world. With all these factors and everything that he learned while working along with his grandfather, it truly seems like Parker's ambitions may come to a reality as he claims the mining world for his own. Perhaps that is why he was always perfect for the Gold Rush TV show. Thanks to the Discovery Channel, the world was able to take in the personality and success that exudes from the precocious young miner. Thanks to the show, we can see how Parker and his mining operations maneuvered through all the mining challenges that they came across in the wilderness of Alaska. Before long, the audience were captivated by Parker's charisma, determination, and unbreakable focus. And before they knew it, the young man became a fan favorite among the viewers. This was probably because they got to witness his trials and tribulations while out there on the Yukon territory. Today, we're going to follow Parker and Mitch as they head out to find gold out in Alaska. Filled with high hopes as they set off on this adventure, the pair believed that they may have found success with the discovery of this potentially fertile piece of land out in Alaska. The prospects are truly exciting, especially when you consider the fact that the previous owners, an old gold mining company in their own right, swear that they have had a lot of success in this territory themselves. The situation does beg the question of why they'd be selling the property if they've had so much success on it. But for now, it may not pay to look a gift horse in the mouth. Instead, let's take a look and appreciate how coming across this piece of land may have led to the discovery of a $400,000 haul. The tale begins when the team decided to set off on this journey to discover new and fertile land.
30, 60, 90, 100, 130, 150, 200, baby.
After some time, we suppose varying levels of success led to the development of the need for Parker to revise their plan to conquer the gold in Alaska. Upon some deliberation, he decides to set off on this odyssey for gold with his main man, Mitch Blaschke. Together, the pair set out to their destination at the break of dawn, hoping that Alaska had the answers to their dreams coming true. Perhaps looking for something to fill the time needed to complete their journey, Mitch asked Parker what drew him to Alaska. Parker didn't have to think much. The answer was easy. Alaska was just more fertile than the land they were already mining. Sure, the land was deeper, But that factor didn't matter to Parker. All he wanted was to see how much gold he could extract from the ground in Alaska. If anything, Parker also confessed that this would be a big trade-off with respect to some activities that took place in the last year. You see, that was when Parker learned how to drill multiple test holes in clay-packed ground in the area. To his great pleasure, he came across a pay streak 4 times more bountiful than that in the Yukon. Awesome, right? As amazing as this potential is, it must have been disappointing to him when he found out that he couldn't bring his water plant along with him. That would take a few months to materialize, and we're sure that must be a pain to him. Either way, he was still in good spirits when he and Mitch finally made it to the claim in Alaska. They were immediately welcomed to the claim by Elora, the daughter of the owner of the claim. Together with her husband, Elora immediately got to work, showing Parker and Mitch around the place, beaming with pride as she showed her guests the way around the fertile property. This was probably also done in order to satisfy Mitch's strict criteria that he uses to prove that land was potentially viable for mining. That is truly the only way they can actually get Parker to invest in the land.
Go find it, Nugget.
This is our spot. Mitch, you want to give it a go?
Elora and her husband are going to have to be on top of their game if they're going to have any hope convincing Mitch that this is the case, because Mitch is believed to be a tough sell. Let's hope that they are up to the task. Well, Elora and her husband begin to look like they might be up to the task when they suggest that they may have a way for Mitch and Parker to make the most of their current season on this very ground that the pair are interested in. Elora especially believes that she has found a land with a lot of gold hiding underneath the Earth's surface, and she was going to show Parker and Mitch exactly where this place is. Understandably, this got Parker more and more excited as they approached this potentially exciting point out in the fields. As they made their way towards their destination, Mitch happened to notice a dredge that he thought to be an old dredge bucket. He compared it to the inch-bottom deck that they had on Big Red back at home, stating that the item they had before them was tighter than the one they had back at home. Nonetheless, this triggered some fascination in the pair because they believed that the more they knew about what the old miners did over here and how they did it, the more it would help the pair out in their careers as gold miners. Elora added her 2 cents to the matter by stating they gave them a clue as to what the old miners did back then. She stated that the old miners were likely to leave any item that they considered too big to mine. Turns out that these massive gold nuggets or deposits are exactly what the boys would have loved to find. Awesome, right? Excited, the pair followed Elora to their first destination, an area that was first mined all the way back in the early 20th century. The pair tried to find traces of gold and must have been gutted when their search led to nothing. After some more time, Mitch came to the conclusion that this area would only be filled with drift tailings. To her credit, Elora agreed with Mitch's assessments immediately.
There's a layer where there's going to be gold.
So they would channel down, get underneath, get down to the pay layer.
They'd have a shaft.
She even told him that her father's company had tried several test drills, but all they came away with was drift tailings. That said, this could mean that they won't find any trace of gold on other parts of the property. To her relief, this wasn't her first rodeo. Turns out that they had been in a similar situation before, and as such, they were used to not finding gold pannings in some places. After all, would gold be valuable if everybody could get it from anywhere? Even Elora joked about how easy it was not to find gold. Nonetheless, Parker wanted to know what all the previous miners achieved while they were at the claim back in the day. It's fair enough. No point ignoring the history of such a place, only to discover that the place is a flop later on. Nonetheless, he began with the assumption that there was gold, and it was all brought up by the shafts that must have been installed in the place by the previous miners. Elora did her best to respond by telling him that what she does know was that they had a drifted mine in the area long before the dredges came through to the place, so she was sure there was a layer where there was going to be gold. Thanks to this information, Mitch could just see as the old-time miners got down underneath into the payload layer by drilling a shaft through concrete like permafrost before hitting pay dirt that's located just above bedrock. Following this, they navigated through the tunnels by digging so that they could extract seams of gold from the area so that they could take them up to the surface. Following this, they washed the pay dirt off with primitive sieve trays so that they could filter the gold. Following this detailed explanation of how the olden-day miners carried out their mining operations, Parker became more convinced that there was gold to salvage in these mines.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's some gold there. That's very good.
They might actually be in the money. In fact, the pair began to get more and more optimistic about the matter when they gave it another thought. Excited about the matter, Parker decided to give panning a go. However, it soon became clear that panning wasn't on his long list of talents, because soon he was asking Elora for help to show them where the gold was and to help him with his panning technique. Eager to help, Elora led them to a pile of dirt that was close to a birch tree nearby. Apparently, the presence of birch trees seemed to be a clue that there was gold nearby, perhaps because it managed to grow through the hard ground. All these signs seemed to be good news for Parker and Mitch, who were starting to believe that this may be the perfect place for the team to move their mining operations. Just imagine all the gold that they could uproot from this place. It was surely like a dream. After following Elora's lead for a while, the group finally got to a spot where she gave Mitch a shovel and told him to get to work. Let's see what he comes up with. Not one to mess around, Mitch complied by digging up some dirt so that he could give it to Elora. Immediately, she got to work, washing through the dirt to show the potential of what the old-timers left for them. Excitedly, she showed the pair the traces of gold that were hiding in the dirt. This was proof that they were standing on land that was viable for mining. Now they can start with the process of transporting their wash plant to the claim. Despite the good news, Parker couldn't help but voice his disappointment because he never seemed to be able to have much luck with panning. It always seemed to be something that he struggled with. How did people actually do it? All he ever seemed to pan were duds.
So that's a good sign. So that's how to pan. Probably my #1 piece of advice for somebody that wants to pan.
Not wanting to kill their spirits, Elora passed the pan down to Parker. Turns out that this was the best pan that she had ever made. She actually couldn't even believe that there was so much gold there. What she did know was that it would bring a smile to his face. Whether they panned the land or chose another method to extract their gold, they should be happy that they were sure of one thing: there must be gold in the area. Indeed, this did turn out to be pleasing to Parker. How could he not take the positives from Elora's most impressive findings? He was elated with what the old-timers left behind for them, and was even happier that now it seemed that they could use any regular wash plant to use this land to turn a profit which would help them recover from any losses that they had incurred so far. Looking at the situation, Parker and Mitch were certain that they were going to make a lot of money from this place, and as such they were to get things moving over in Alaska. Parker was keen to take advantage of the situation by setting up a base in Alaska so that they can gain all the riches that they can from the place. Following this successful expedition to Alaska, a rejuvenated Parker was ready to go. He was already devising plans to make the most of the place. He believed that the best plan for the place was to sluice the land instead of stripping it. Perhaps if they take that approach while making other good decisions, they are set to have a lucrative season in Alaska. We returned back to base ahead of the pair in order to take a look at what Tyler Lee had been up to in the absence of Parker and Mitch. Turns out that the pair left him in charge of the Indian claims while they were gone, so it might be in his best interest to make sure that everything had gone according to plan while they were gone. That was the only way he could get them to let him run things whenever they weren't around.
Oh, the pre-wash jammed up on us. So, just gotta get her cleared out.
Looks like he may have proved himself because not only did the crew complete the task of moving overloaded gravel, they also continued with the other operations being worked on in the Yukon for an entire week, which was how long Parker and Mitch were gone. Soon, the pair returned to a welcoming crew who wasted no time in drilling them about what happened in Alaska. Parker wasted no time in telling them about the massive land which he believed covered about 50,000 mind-blowing yards. Granted, he revealed that there was quite a bit of drifttailing on the property, but he was certain that they were going to make a massive fortune in Alaska. He also went on to emphasize that they needed to show Don how serious they were about mining in Alaska by moving some dirt, which will help them make the money they needed to use to pay the royalties they owe him. That was the only way they could avoid getting booted out of the area. As daunting as the task might be, the crewman reminded them that they had some business to attend to on Indian Island. Turns out that they had to move some dirt from the area. Luckily, the crew had already started with the process when Parker and Mitch were gone. They had also extracted some gold, and they were happy for Tyler to show the findings to the duo because he had led the way during the pair's departure. This gold came up to about 200 ounces, a lot more than they expected to collect from the area in a week. Impressed, Parker and Mitch wasted no time in congratulating the team for doing so well that week. They had gotten about $400,000 worth of gold in their absence, a huge find anywhere in the world. Turns out, they can trust things to run smoothly in their absence. That must be a relief to any entrepreneur who leaves their staff to do the work when they are not around. With any luck, this may add more skills to Tyler Lee's mining career.
Yeah, I mean, we ran 24 hours and we're running quite a bit of yardage, so we'd want to see at least 30 ounces to make this ground worthwhile.
This takes us to Parker Schnabel and his mining career. Parker was a bit of a precocious miner. A notable third-generation miner, following in the footsteps of his father and his grandfather, Parker had been in charge of Big Nugget, his family's mining company, ever since he was about 16, and he has never looked back. Once he thought he was ready to stand on his own 2 feet, he decided to seek out some loans which helped him fund his operations. This led to the discovery of an impressive 960 grams of gold during his first season of Gold Rush. This proved to be just the start, because by the time he was about 24 years old, he had already mined gold that was upwards in value of about $13 million. Insane. As you can imagine, this made the young man quite rich. However, rather than spending his earnings on flashy items, Parker reinvested a good chunk of his money in more mining equipment so that he could stay ahead of the game in the years to come. That's sound business if you ask us here. This shows that despite making a lot of money in this business, the young man is not quite done yet. Despite making so much money, these miners have to make some important payments to organizations like the government or some other authorities. This is because they need permission from whoever's land that they are mining on. This permission is given when people such as Parker pay royalty fees. These are fees paid to the local, state, and/or the federal government for the amount of minerals that are found and extracted on a piece of land owned by them. These royalties can also be imposed on any revenue made from the sale of these minerals. Due to the complexities of operating a marketable mineral mine, a net royalty was way better for business, especially because a mining business should not have to pay a royalty on value added to the minerals. This may be something to consider now that they've found their way to Alaska, because apparently Alaska mining operations pay an additional 3% net profit royalty. This is probably why miners are significant taxpayers in Alaska, as they pay property taxes as well. Let's see if these guys will be able to make the most of the time ahead in Alaska. Surely there are exciting times ahead in the world of Gold Rush. From the search of gold in a potentially viable land for gold mining in Alaska, to the extraction of a huge amount of gold that is guaranteed to enrich the team thanks to the work of some hard-working miners. Here's how Parker Schnabel just discovered $400,000 worth of gold on Gold Rush.